Hi, I'm Deborah Slack and I'm a student at Liberty University Online. When I received my first edition of the Voice of the Martyrs magazine, I was appalled at the number of countries where there is still hostility and violence against Christians. I also received a book written by Richard Wurmbrand called Tortured for Christ. He is the founder of Voice of the Martyrs. It was founded in 1967, and they minister to the persecuted church today. I'm a Christian and was recently fired from my job for praying with a patient. This is in no way comparable to the suffering that Christians around the world endure, but it does raise some fears about the negative Christian bias that is increasing in America today. Based on my research of current media and the Voice of the Martyrs, I present information about Christian persecution. Christian persecution still exists today. In the next few minutes, we'll look at Christian persecution in countries where they try to protect Christians, in other countries that have legislated persecution, and in our own country where we have religious rights. First, Christian persecution exists today in countries that try to protect Christians. The Voice of the Martyrs prayer map was published in 2010 with the Global Report of 2010. The areas in red are hostile areas. There are 13 in the report. And the areas in orange are the restricted nations. The hostile areas are where Christians are protected by the government, but they are persecuted for their witness. In the orange areas, the restricted nations, that is where Christians suffer legislated persecution. Our fellow church members, Stephen and Jane, are missionaries to Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the listed red hostile areas. This is a quote from an email that Steve sent out on January 21st, 2011. As we know, we are in a spiritual battle, but in this place the battle is also in the physical realm. We haven't seen or experienced any direct violence, but the evidence of it is all around us. The nephew of our host was killed last week in one of the secret killings where the Muslims snatch a Christian, kill them, and dispose of the body. Essentially, the person is gone, and the bodies are rarely recovered. This is quite a regular occurrence here in Nigeria. Our brothers and sisters need our prayers. Again, that was a quote from Stephen, a missionary from Nigeria. Next, Christian persecution exists today in countries that have legislated persecution. The restricted nations were in orange on the Voice of the Martyrs map. This is where countries where government policy or practice prevents Christians from obtaining Bibles or Christian literature. There are also anti-Christian laws that lead to Christians being harassed, imprisoned, killed, or deprived of possessions or liberties because of their witness. Egypt, which is in the news today, is a restricted nation. Quote, Christians are treated as second-class citizens, denied political representation, and discriminated against in employment. End quote. Christians have been attacked on the streets, received death threats, and suffered bombings in their place of worship. Finally, Christian persecution exists in our own country, America, where our religious rights are protected. According to the New American, in April of 2009, President Barack Obama stated in a press conference in Turkey that we Americans, quote, do not consider ourselves a Christian nation, end quote. According to the Christian Persecution website, on January 30th, 2010, two young street evangelists who were trying to spread the gospel on the streets of Boynton, Florida, were murdered just a little over a year ago. As you can see, negative attitudes and violence against Christians have increased in America and continue around the world. Christian persecution does still exist in the world today. Christians are persecuted in countries that try to protect Christians, in other countries where there's legislated persecution, and in our own country that protects our religious rights. As we live our comfortable day-to-day lives, let us be more aware of the suffering of our brothers and sisters in Christ, the suffering that they endure for the sake of the gospel. Hebrews 13:3 says, "Continue to remember those in prison as if you were together with them in prison, and those who are mistreated as if you yourselves were suffering."